rise up and say hello, you know, I mean, I did that once and it was really a big moment, you know. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is to talk very quickly, and I have a few slides here. Yes, talk about judgment.
You can just imagine what he was going to show.
Yeah, so essentially we're going to talk about how to capture the value of fisheries. In general, economists, and I think even biologists will agree that when you catch a fish and you sell it for X dollars, that is not the total value of the fish, right? Even in economic terms, because the fish goes into the economy and people do all sorts of things with it. And at each stage in the economy, some value is added. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just the landed value of the fish, that is the value, the gross value. You have to go through the whole economy and see where the fish goes, and then add up all the value it creates along the value chain. You know, and that is what this topic is about. So think of fish population in the center. There are lots of things that are dependent on this fish, right? So you have the fish in the center, and if you look at capture fisheries, this one, most of the time this is all that we talk about, right? You catch the fish, you sell it, you eat it, whatever. But actually this thing supports a lot of other activities around here. Look at this one, marine research. If there was no fish, I will have to look for some other job to do, right? So my job is dependent on fish being in the ocean, right? And so on and so forth. Agriculture, we talk a lot about it. There is independence, right? If you're doing salmon agriculture, you have to feed it with fish meal and fish oil, anchovies and the like, and so there is independence. How about the processing sector? That's what independence is. Management, even management, right? All the think of the US or any of your countries, there's the Fisheries Management Authority, the recreational fisheries. So there's a lot going on here. And if you want to capture all these values, you have to do more than just the amount you sell the fish for. And that is the point. So fisheries values. Many of us economists, we consider fisheries as primary or base industries. So the fish is a primary industry. It's a basic industry. You start from there and just build on it, and you can name a number of basic industries. And fish is one of them. So it's a base on which many things are built. It's a source of resources out of which much economic activities grow from. So you can start there to build. And the question is how much economic activity throughout the economy is sourced from fisheries and can be attributed to fisheries. So when you go to a restaurant, when you pay for your meal, you know, how much of the value or the profit or the money made by that restaurant can be attributed to the fish, right? So that's it. And that's an area which there's a push. So in general, there are two broad approaches of doing this. One of them is the input-output model approach, and they are related actually. I'll talk a bit more about each of them. Then you have the value chain model approach. And an eco-path or ecosystem is the value chain approach which is being used. And I usually use the input-output. Maybe because I'm an economist and really it's about it, so I don't know, but yeah. So you have, both of them should lead you to trying to capture this value of fishes. So let's talk a bit about the input-output model. This is a quantitative economic technique that represents the interdependencies between different branches of the national economy, of a given national economy, or between branches of different, even competing economies. So even when you compete, even two sectors competing, usually they take inputs from each other, and you need to capture them. So that is the idea of the input-output. Essentially, you take the fishery sector and say, where does this fish go? Which sectors? So you identify all the sectors in the economy that take in the fish and do things with it, create an economic value. This guy, in Poland, there was a guy who developed this, and I love his story. He's one of the scientists. I enjoy their story. You know, it's good to go behind the scientists to learn something about their background, and usually it's well nice. He developed this thing, and he's a Russian, actually. He's a Russian scientist. Developed this technique in communist Russia, Soviet Union, right? And they disliked him a lot. The system hated him. They went after him like crazy, accusing him of bringing economic thinking to the Soviet Union. You know, when he started developing this thing. It was so bad they had to migrate. He moved to the US, to Seattle, and continued developing his input-output table. You know what happened to him in the US? The US went after him because he's putting the whole economy in the table and planning where the fish goes, right? Where each product goes, and they say he's bringing a planned economy into the US. See? So they went after him then. But the US, they go after you, not in a very dangerous way, right? So a fellow scientist, and they went after him, but he kept going. And he ended up winning a Nobel Prize from this. And actually, every big company, if you go to Boeing, they have an input-output table, tracking all the inputs that come in and where they go. Every country essentially has this table. And I think this is a nice story to remember as you build your career. Right? As a scientist, somebody is going to go after you. That is a given. Except if you are not doing something interesting. If you are doing something interesting, but that's part of the game. Right? You should enjoy it, actually. So that's this gentleman who produced this for us. I'll just show a little bit of what he does. I quickly pull this out. So essentially what he does is to develop matrices like this. So he takes a country, like Turkey, and then identifies all the different types of industries in the country. And you can do this also very detailed, all sorts of things you can do. So you have 1, 2 to Z economic sectors. You have them there, and you have them across them. And then what you do is that you say, okay, let's say this is fish. This is the fish sector here. So in this area, you tell is how much of the fish output actually is consumed by the fish sector, right? So you use fish for bait, for example, right? And if you're looking at fish as including agriculture, you take in all the fish. So that's internal to the sector. And then you identify, you track how much of this sector is consumed by itself and all the other sectors. How much is exported and how much goes to final demand, and therefore what is the total contribution of that sector to the whole economy. So that's the basic idea. Very easy, conceptually very easy, but very challenging to do once you can imagine the data requirements. So you take another sector, you do the same thing, and if you are able to fill out this with good data, you should be able to have the contributions of each sector and then the total economy. And that's Leontios' input-output table. And what he does, what you can do with this, at every point you calculate the additional value that fish is creating for that sector. So that's the multiplier, we call that the multiplier. So in here, actually, we did this in a paper we published in 2010, and I think that is part of the reading. So if you want to find details, that is where to go. Most of you are not economists, so you don't even bother to read this. But a few who are interested, you can check out details there. And when you do this for fisheries, the nice thing is there's one university, Purdue University in the US. There's a department that specializes on this. That's what all their life is based on building this compliance for different sectors of the economy, including fisheries. In fact, that's where we got our knowledge, because it's a lot of specialized work. And then you take it to your sector and you do your stuff. So if you do that, this is our calculation of the contribution of fish to the continental economies and then to the global. So let's take Africa. If you look at just the fish value, roughly we're talking about $2 billion of fish taken out of African waters by African cultures in a year. So 2 billion. And the point is that's not the total contribution of the fishing sector to the economy. If you do the year testing, this is the multiplier you get for fish contribution to the economy in Africa as an average. You can do for each country naturally. So it's about 2.6. And what this thing says is, if you take fish of value of $1 from African waters, the true contribution of that $1 fish is $2.6 by the time you take all the added value throughout the economy. And you can say the same here for Asia, for Europe, and so on and so forth. Which one is this? It's more South and Central America, right? North America is quite high, Oceania is quite high. And it's not surprising to see that you have to go to a lobster restaurant in the US and you know why, right? There's a lot of added value that comes. So the total value of the fish we take from our ocean globally, roughly, is about $85 billion a year. So you take the catch, multiply by the price we get, that's the number, 80 billion, 85. But if you take in these multipliers, then you end up with about 235 billion a year coming from fishing activities and activities dependent on fishing. And that is the point of this multiplier. We call that the economic. So then you can also do something about income effects. So here you have multipliers for income. And the question is, if you take $1 worth of fish, how much income in terms of wages to people who work in the sector throughout the economy, right? How much of that dollar turns into income for people? And in Africa, it's about 62%. 62% of the initial value, $1 actually generates 62 cents. And that goes from here. For this North America, again, I mean, it's even more than the initial value of the fish. See what this tells you? So if you catch $1 of fish in the US, by the time it goes through the economy, it creates $1.22 of wages to people, different levels of the economy. And that total wages is.
This is wages directly to the fishermen, or?
No, throughout the economy, fishermen plus. So if you are a wholesaler, right, the component of your wage that can be attributed to the fish is also part of this.
It's quite surprising because in the previous slide, the trend was really clear. The richer country had more profit out of each fish, more added value. But here, it's not clear at all. Why is that?
Okay, now to go, start again.
Okay, sorry. In the previous table, the trend was really clear. The more richer the country is, or the region, you get more added value. And here, it's really mixed.
It's really mixed?
Yeah.
So the question is, why is that?
Yes, Europe and Asia are almost the same.